Today I want to talk with you about the planet Mars and how it represents the hero's journey and how it really symbolizes for us what it means to be in that process of discovering who we are, what our destiny is. How is it that we want to act and live in this lifetime on this earth? Let me share a little bit about the nature of the planet Mars and what it means for us. Mars is the planet that is fourth out from the sun. So we have the sun at the center of our solar system, and then Mercury, and then Venus, and then our planet Earth, and then Mars is the first planet outside of the orbit of the Earth. And its orbit is about 26 months. I think it's highly significant that our planet is between the orbit of Venus and the orbit of Mars. Venus represents our connection to the sacred feminine. Mars, the energy of the sacred masculine. We on this planet are being guided to find a balance and integration between those energies. Venus teaches us about relationship, about connection. It's significant that Venus is at its most powerful. In other words, it is brightest in the sky, just as it's emerging as a morning star after its inferior conjunction with the sun, meaning its most intense time of transformation is when Venus is right between the sun and the earth. During that time, it's invisible from our view, but it is in that underworld experience of transition and transformation between when it's lying between the sun and the earth. Venus, as we've talked about in previous videos, is symbolic of Inanna's journey to the underworld to reclaim lost parts of herself, to reconcile ruptured relationships. And then she goes through this transition, transformation, and emerges in a new way as she rises out of the underworld as the morning star and is at her brightest. So Venus is teaching us that dance of relationship, how it is that we're integrating and connecting to lost parts of ourselves, how it is we are in our relationships with others, and how it is that we are in our relationship with the earth. She's teaching us about connection, about communion. She guides us to understand the meaning of the sacred feminine as the understanding that spirit, consciousness, that energy of the divine is in all of life. She teaches us how to realize that our bodies are sacred. She reminds us that our relationship with the earth is about a sacred relationship and that we're meant to be in right balance and honoring our connection with the earth and the consciousness of all of the life forms around us. So she's teaching us about spirituality as immanent, as embodied. It's a very different teaching than what Mars is guiding us to understand. And again, Mars represents the energy of the sacred masculine. What does that mean? As we look at Mars, and again, it is that first planet that is moving out in the solar system from our Earth orbit. So Mars is teaching us how is it that we begin to separate and individuate and move out into the world and explore and discover who we are through our actions, through our experiences, through our adventures. Mars is teaching us about the hero's journey. It is about that understanding that we are connected with Source, with the earth, with each other, but we're also here to explore our own individual identity. So the hero's journey is about setting forth and exploring and going through challenges and tests and experiences that mature us, that help us to see ourselves more clearly, that help us to grow and evolve. And then in the Mars orbit, when Mars is at its brightest, its moment of transformation and of coming into its power is actually when Mars is opposite the Sun. So it's at its furthest from the Sun, and then it's reflecting the light of the Sun and glowing brighter than it does at any other time in its orbit. This is the phase in the hero's journey when we've gone through these tests and difficulties, we've grown and evolved, and finally we come to clarity. This is the moment of finding the Holy Grail, of going through some kind of transformation, discovery that empowers us and transforms us. And then Mars begins its journey back in its orbit, back to the Sun. And now this part of its journey is about how do we integrate that profound experience of coming to clarity, of coming to some discovery, of going through that transformation, and then begin to share it with others. And begin to understand that the journey has been about our own self-discovery, but is ultimately about how do we bring that back into relationship to be of service to others. So Mars is teaching us about that journey of separation and individuation and discovery and transformation. And it is the understanding of spirituality as transcendent, as within us, but also beyond us. We go out in the quest to seek that connection and that sense of discovery. So when we balance the wisdom of Venus and the wisdom of Mars, we integrate the wisdom of the sacred feminine and the wisdom of the sacred masculine. We are beginning a new Mars cycle starting September 2nd, 2019, when Mars is conjunct the Sun. Mars has been invisible since July, as it's been under the beams of the Sun. And this is a time when Mars is in its own reflection process and preparing for a new journey, a new time of exploration and discovery. So I want to share with you today what the meaning of this Mars cycle is about, how we can understand it, how we can integrate it in our own lives, and really work with the guidance that Mars is giving us as it moves through this journey beginning in September, and then it will actually emerge into view in October 2019 and be in its cycle until it comes to completion and begins a new cycle in October 2021. So I think it's very significant that Mars, in this new cycle across these next few years, is really trying to show us how we can be in our own journey of exploration and evolution at the same time that we're in these really powerful transits that are guiding us as a planet through a time of transformation as we move into the new age of Aquarius and as we begin a whole new 26,000-year precessional cycle. So Mars is bringing it down to Earth for us to have a sense of who are we in the midst of all of this? What is our path? What is our destiny? How is it that we can be in this process and make choices that are in alignment with this larger transition that we're all a part of? So Mars has been invisible since July. October 11th, Mars will emerge and be visible in the sky, in the eastern sky, just before sunrise. What's extraordinary is about a week before, Venus will have come out of her time of circling behind the sun and being invisible and will emerge in the western sky as an evening star. So we see her emerge, and then a week later, Mars emerges in the morning sky. Again, the two are trying to guide us to integrate their energies and to honor the wisdom that they both bring. When Mars emerges, it will be in the sign of Libra. Libra being the energy of balance, of harmony, of being in right relationship. So the beginning of the cycle is seeding the meaning of this journey, this hero's quest. So it is a quest for discovering how is it that we can be in balance and harmony with ourselves, with each other, with the earth, with all of life. What's also extraordinary when Mars first emerges is that it's in the sky opposite Chiron. I've talked in an earlier video about the meaning of Chiron in Aries, which is trying to heal us and guide us in how we can live our lives in a way that is about our own healing and bringing that healing energy out to others. So Mars emerges with this goal to discover how to be in balance and how to be in harmony, with Chiron bringing that healing energy to really help that journey. What's also extraordinary at that moment that Mars emerges is that it is squaring the lunar nodes, and in particular is targeting the North Node. So it means this is a karmic moment when we're really meant to clarify our destiny, to clarify who we are and what we're here for. At this time of Mars emergence, it's in the sign of Libra in the tropical zodiac. But if we look literally at where Mars is in the stars at that moment, it emerges. It's emerging in the stars of Virgo, the wing of the great goddess, the great harvest goddess. So again, the meaning of this Mars journey is, how do we come into balance and harmony? And how is it that we can shape our lives so that we are bringing that energy of the great goddess, that energy of her energy is that of nurturing and being of service to others through her gifts. So that is what we're being guided to discover. Mars then continues on its journey, and it is in this process of exploration and experiencing life and learning and growing through that. And that's our journey too. And then the next critical phase in that Mars cycle comes June 12th, 2020, when Mars squares the Sun. This is the moment in the hero's journey when we've been through this process of exploration, and suddenly there's this moment of crisis. Who am I? What is this journey about? What action do I take? What is my direction? What is the purpose of this? So it's a crisis of action, of trying to decide what we're doing and what direction to go in. And at this point in the Mars cycle, Mars is in the sign of Pisces, right next to Neptune, and is squaring the lunar nodes still, but now orienting itself towards the south node. So the meaning of this crisis is, how do we let go of what we need to let go of from the past? South node. How do we let the energy of Neptune dissolve what no longer serves us? And how is it that we are in our own emotional and spiritual process, Pisces, to make that decision, to chart our course, to be in alignment with our true purpose? At that time, Mars in the sky is in the stars of Aquarius. Aquarius is the constellation of the water bearer, pouring the living waters to the earth. And Mars is right at that opening in the jar in the waters coming to the earth. So again, this is a time when Mars is realizing that the journey is not about defining who I am in separation, but who am I in my oneness with spirit and with all of life. This is the amazing thing about the Mars cycle and the hero's journey. If we're not working it at a deeper level of consciousness, the energy of Mars and the Mars journey is the ego's quest for conquest and control. And when that's the journey we're on with Mars, then we see the shadow side of Mars. Mars can represent our anger, our impulsivity, our self-centeredness, our arrogance, our need for control, our focus on competition and winning and defeating others in order to further our own ends. We're seeing a lot of that shadow side of Mars operating in the world right now, with people in positions of power and people all around us who are operating out of their own self-interest, out of their own arrogance or grandiosity, saying, this is all about me and what I want and what I need, and I don't care how it impacts anyone else. And that is the shadow side of Mars that leads to disconnection and destruction, and ultimately the undoing of the self. The deeper conscious journey with Mars is the hero's quest to move beyond the ego into that alignment with Spirit, to realize I am a part of all that is. That I am here in my own individual identity as a spark of the creative consciousness of the cosmos. But ultimately, what I'm experiencing, what I'm learning, how I'm exploring and growing is not only for my own evolution, but to be of service to others, to seed what I've learned and discovered in the collective consciousness so that we're all growing. That is the understanding that we're not here for one lifetime. We're here on a journey of evolution across many lifetimes. And this incarnation is about our own individual growth and about how we're bringing those experiences and that wisdom back to others around us to support them in their journeys. So when we hit this crisis point in the Mars cycle, it's really a time to confront: are you operating out of your own ego and out of your own quest for power and control? Or are you on that deeper hero's journey? And what's extraordinary at this time in the Mars cycle, when Mars is squaring the Sun, and at that decision point, Mars is in that connection with Neptune, which is saying, dissolve your ego. Let go of that sense of being separate from all that is and remember you're part of the oneness. And then when you can remember that, this journey can be about being a part of the living waters that nurture the earth and everyone around you. If we're working this journey consciously, we continue then to integrate that understanding that we've come to in June of 2020. And we continue to explore and grow until we come to that profound time in the Mars cycle when Mars is opposite the Sun and at its brightest. And that will come in October, on October 14th, 2020. At that time, Mars is in the sign of Aries. So this is the point where Mars is going through that final moment of transformation. This is the moment when we come to clarity about what the journey has been about, and we have a sense of coming to some profound transformation, a moment of transcendence, a moment of really seeing clearly what our destiny is. And the fact that Mars is squaring Pluto in particular at that time is highly significant, because Pluto is the planet that is seen as the higher octave of Mars. So if Mars is how we define who we are and act in the world, Pluto is our connection not to our ego's power, but to divine will. So at this moment of Mars being at its brightest, each of us is being challenged to align our personal will with divine will, with the consciousness of the cosmos. And it's interesting that at this moment, Mars in the stars in the sky is in the stars of Pisces, the two fish. And it's close to what's called the sacred knot, that point where the two fish of Pisces are tied together. And if you remember, one fish is swimming along the ecliptic, the other fish is swimming up into the sky. So Pisces represents this journey of transcendence, of understanding that we're from beyond this lifetime and this planet and this moment. But the other fish is swimming along the ecliptic saying, yes, but you're here now. So how do you integrate that connection with infinity and immortality in this moment, in this incarnation, in this embodiment? So Mars, at this moment of its brightest empowerment, is saying, how is it that I align my will with divine consciousness and integrate that in my actions and decisions and in how I'm charting my course in this lifetime? Think about how profound it could be if we all actually take in the message of this Mars journey and are in our own process of evolution and transformation to then bring that back to our global community. Because that final phase of Mars, from that moment of its brightest in opposition to the sun to now as it returns back into connection with the sun, is a time of integrating that profound clarity and moment of discovery and then bringing it to be of service to others. There's another crisis moment in the Mars cycle when Mars is in the third quarter of that cycle and again is squaring the sun. And this will come February 2nd, 2021. And at that point, Mars is in the sign of Taurus. And now Mars is close to Uranus. This moment in the Mars cycle is the crisis of consciousness, or the crisis of destiny. Because there's this realization, I've been on this quest, I've come to the pinnacle, I've integrated it, and now it's coming to a close. So it is the reminder that this phase of the journey is about sharing what you've learned with others, bringing it out to be of service to others. And this time when Mars is next to Uranus is when Mars in the sky is in that powerful part of the sky called being in the stare of Cetus, when Mars is between Cetus the whale and Perseus the warrior. That's a powerful part of the sky that is really representing the crisis and conflict between the energy of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. And it's really coming out of a Greek myth of Perseus destroying Medusa and slaying the sea monster, because it is about that energy of the patriarchal culture wanting to eradicate the wisdom of the sacred feminine. So Mars at this crisis point is being reminded this isn't about polarizing the sacred feminine and sacred masculine. This time and this journey that we're in is how do you integrate them? How do you bring them together? And Uranus is trying to give that clarity. Uranus in Taurus, which we've talked about in earlier videos, is trying to say this is the way. Bring these things into unity, into integration, and not have them be in polarization. So this is a profound journey that we're in, individually and collectively. And this Mars cycle is showing us how we each can be in our own hero's journey in order to explore how to be in balance and harmony. How is it that within ourselves we heal? How is it that we integrate the energy of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine? And it's incredibly profound that in these critical moments in this Mars cycle, Mars has these powerful encounters with all three transpersonal planets. First Neptune, then Pluto, then Uranus. It is the reminder that we are meant to understand who we are as part of a larger unfolding, that we are part of the cosmic consciousness that is living in the spark of our own creative individuality in this moment, in this incarnation. So how do we live that? Knowing that we're part of that oneness. And how do we hold this journey with that deeper consciousness that this experience on the planet is not about how do I protect my own ego, assert my own will, and conquer and control everything around me in order to take care of my own needs. This is a journey of discovery, of transformation, of transcendence, and of remembering that we are a part of a global community and a part of the oneness of all that is. And when we remember that, then we can use our actions and our decisions to be of service to others and be a part of the healing and transformation on this planet that can guide us into the paradigms of the new age, when we all can come back in to harmony with each other, with the earth, and with the cosmos. May we honor the wisdom of Mars, balance the energy of Mars with the energy of Venus, and come back into integration and wholeness, individually and collectively. Blessed be.